It was supposed to be a weekend getaway, just Emily and the woods. Saturday, June 8, 2024. Emily Hargrove, 27, parked her white Subaru at the Wolf Pine Trailhead in Northern California. She sent her sister a text at 7:14 a.m. Going off-grid for a bit. Signals bad up here. Be back Sunday. Emily was a seasoned solo hiker, cautious, methodical, and in love with the wild. She always left a paper map at home, always logged her trail route with a friend, always checked the weather twice. But this time was different. This time, no one saw her again. When she didn't return Sunday night, her sister Beth waited, convincing herself that Emily had just lost signal. But when Monday morning came, and there was still no word, Beth called the sheriff's department. By noon, search teams were combing the Wolf Pine Ridge. Drones, dogs, and helicopters buzzed over the thick canopy. Emily's car was right where she left it. Neatly locked, hiking boots gone, backpack missing. No signs of a struggle. No blood. No broken branches. Just silence. Then something eerie surfaced. A couple hiking 6 miles into the woods reported hearing a woman scream around dusk on Saturday. High, short, then abruptly cut off. They thought it was an animal. But now, they weren't so sure. As the search stretched into days, what began as a missing persons case quickly turned darker. There were no fresh tracks, no torn clothing, no phone signal. It was like the forest had swallowed her whole. And then, 10 days later, someone hacked into Emily's Instagram account. The Instagram hack came late at night. At 2:13 a.m. on June 18th, a single post appeared on Emily's dormant account. No caption, just a picture. It showed the woods, a blurry shot from a trail probably taken at dusk. Trees leaned inward, tall and sinister, their trunks casting long shadows across the forest floor. In the distance, barely visible, was a figure. A woman, her back turned, hair loose, standing unnaturally still between the pines. Emily's followers, mostly close friends and fellow hikers, were stunned. Beth saw it at 6:42 a.m. and dropped her phone. That's her. That's her backpack, she whispered, trembling. But she didn't take that photo. The sheriff's department acted quickly. The image metadata had been stripped. The IP was rerouted through 2 overseas VPNs, one in Germany, the other in Malaysia. Someone knew what they were doing. Emily had never used a VPN in her life. Investigators began to treat the case as a criminal abduction. The forest, once the focus of a search and rescue, now became a potential crime scene. Cadaver dogs were brought back in. FBI agents arrived quietly, and the press started circling. That same evening, a hiker named Daniel Cruz came forward. He'd been on the Wolf Pine Trail that Saturday, the same day Emily vanished. He hadn't seen her, but he had seen someone else. A man, he said, tall, bearded, army green jacket, watching people from behind the trees. No backpack, just standing there staring. When he saw me, he walked away, like, too casually. Daniel hadn't thought much of it. But now, I should have reported it, he said, burying his face in his hands. By Thursday, searchers discovered a torn piece of yellow nylon in a gully near Bearclaw Creek, 12 miles from the trailhead. It matched the material from Emily's rain jacket. But no body, no blood, just another whisper from the woods. The forest was no longer just a place of peace. It had become a crime scene. By dawn, the area around Copper Ridge Trail had transformed. Yellow tape lined the trees like cautionary ribbons, fluttering in the breeze. Armed officers and forensic teams swarmed the path, their boots flattening the mossy ground where Sarah Whitaker had vanished. The missing hiker's name spread quickly, especially after authorities confirmed she wasn't just late returning. She was gone without a trace. No gear, no blood, no signs of struggle. Just her backpack, propped eerily upright against a tree, with her phone inside, wiped clean. Sheriff Dana Carver, seasoned and weary, stared down the trail like it owed her an explanation. She'd been with the National Park Criminal Response Unit for 20 years and had seen everything. Except this. Sarah's GPS watch was recovered from a nearby stream. The The data stopped at 5:42 p.m., precisely 2 miles off the designated trail. That's where the signal ended. But the terrain was unwalkable, and even skilled hikers avoided it after dark. So who led her there? Dana whispered. Even stranger, Sarah had texted her sister at 5:30 p.m., saying, "I think someone's behind me." That message was never sent. It was stuck in her phone's outbox. Pattern emerges. As Dana reviewed old reports of missing persons in the region, she noticed an unsettling trend. Over the past 4 years, 5 hikers had disappeared within 30 miles of this spot. Different genders, different experience levels, all solo. None of their bodies were ever found. All disappeared between 5 and 6 p.m. In every case, their phones were found wiped or missing, their gear undisturbed, as if they vanished mid-step. Dana met with Ranger Micah, who'd worked this area since 2010. He grew pale as she laid out the pattern. This matches the Devil's Hollow cases, he murmured. Dana raised an eyebrow. That's just a local legend, Micah. No, he said, swallowing. It's not. Voices in the trees. Later that evening, during a secondary sweep, a young volunteer searcher named Becca Ruiz wandered slightly off the grid. She swore she heard faint whistling, rhythmic, almost like a song. She turned, calling out. No one answered, but when she looked down, she found something chilling. A small fabric patch, blood-stained, tucked beneath a log. It belonged to Sarah's hiking vest. Back at base camp, Dana examined it under a UV light. There were tiny carved symbols burned into the edges. Not from nature. Someone had branded them. A cold silence hung in the air. This isn't just a missing person case anymore, she said. This is something else. The cold bite of early morning air crept down Sheriff Dana Carver's neck as she studied the newly updated map. Each red X marked a hiker lost to the same wilderness. Now a 6th, Sarah Whitaker. And each time, the local legend crept closer to truth. The locals called it Devil's Hollow, but few could point to its exact location. No official maps mentioned it. No ranger handbooks acknowledged it. But Dana had heard the whispers for years. A man who watched the trees, a sound that lured hikers away, and a cabin that shouldn't exist. Micah's confession. Ranger Micah fidgeted as Dana pressed for more. I never told anyone this, he began. But in 2017, I found something strange. He reached into an old filing box and pulled out a torn Polaroid photo. It showed a cabin deep in the forest, half buried in moss and vines. The date scratched into the bottom read, April 13th, 17. I stumbled on it while tracking a lost teenager, he said. It wasn't on any ranger route. No path led there, just shadows and silence. Inside, he found a room with dozens of hiking shoes, stacked neatly. Some had names burned into the soles. He left without reporting it. I was scared, he admitted. Still am. Returned to the woods. Dana assembled a small team, including Micah and a tech specialist named Jules, and headed back out. This time, she was prepared. As they trekked toward where the GPS data ended, Jules picked up low-frequency interference on his device. Something's broadcasting out here, he muttered. Not natural. Suddenly, the forest went silent. No birds, no wind. Then came the sound. A faint, whistled lullaby. Dana raised her hand, signaling everyone to stop. The team turned slowly, and there it was, half hidden behind pine boughs. An ancient wooden structure leaned into the earth like it had grown from it. The hunter's cabin. Inside the nightmare, the smell of decay hit them first. Jules gagged. Micah refused to enter. Dana stepped over the threshold. The interior was lined with photos of hikers, most of them missing. Their faces were scratched out. Beneath them, a wall of names carved into wood, including Sarah's. And at the center of the room, a crude wooden table held a stack of tapes. Jules played one. It was dated just days before Sarah vanished. A woman's voice whispered through the static. He's watching me. He's been in the woods for hours. Please, if anyone finds this, run. A branch snapped outside. Then another. They weren't alone. The disappearing man. Suddenly, a shadow darted past the window. Dana rushed out with her gun drawn. No tracks, no sound, just the whistle echoing deeper into the trees. They weren't chasing a ghost. They were being hunted. The tape wouldn't stop playing. Even after Jules hit pause, then eject, then ripped the batteries from the recorder. The sound kept leaking out. Whispers, crackles, the same haunting lullaby. Micah stood frozen, staring at the wall of names. "That's my sister's name," he said hoarsely. Dana spun. "You never said she was. I didn't know it was the same place." His voice cracked. "She disappeared in 2012. They told us it was a bear attack. We never found her body. Now her name was carved into the cabin wall, just above Sarah Whitaker's. And next to 4 more names, new, fresh, like someone had etched them just hours ago. Unheard frequencies." Jules' scanner began chirping wildly. "This shouldn't be happening," he said. "Something's broadcasting within 20 feet, but there's no transmitter, no satellite, just this frequency." He plugged in his headphones. Immediately, he staggered back, ripping them off. "Nope, no, not right. It's not a signal. It's a voice." Dana took them, cautiously listening. Her face turned white. It was Sarah. She was sobbing, whispering something over and over. "It lives in the trees. It wears a man's face. It's not human. Please help me." The voice broke into static, then screaming, then silence. The trap beneath their feet. While Jules frantically tried to trace the signal's origin, Dana noticed something in the cabin floor. A wooden board slightly askew. She pried it up. A ladder descended into darkness. The stench was unbearable. Micah shone a flashlight. "No way," he muttered. "There's an entire space under here." Crawling down, they found a narrow underground room. Animal bones lined the walls. A camping backpack, Sarah's, sat untouched, her ID inside. And on the far wall, a mirror. Not just any mirror. This one was old, framed in bone and humming. Dana stepped toward it, hypnotized. In the reflection, she didn't see herself. She saw a man, tall, pale, smiling, standing directly behind her. She spun. Nothing. They took something. They didn't sleep that night. Dana insisted they bring back the ID, the tapes, and one of the carved nameplates as evidence. But something was off when they exited the woods. The air smelled wrong. The sun hung too low. Jules checked his phone. They'd been gone for 2 days. Time was missing. Voices don't stay buried. That night, Micah went home and found his door wide open. On his kitchen table sat the mirror. He hadn't taken it. And written in condensation across it was a single phrase: "We're not finished." Micah's hands shook as he poured himself a glass of water. He hadn't slept. He hadn't even sat down since the mirror appeared. He tried to smash it. The glass refused to break. He burned it. The flames recoiled, stayed cold, humming quietly, like it was breathing. And in the corner of the mirror, just behind his shoulder, he swore he could see his sister, smiling, but not like she used to. The police wouldn't help. Dana filed a report. She showed the officer the ID they found, the recordings, the photos of the underground room. He looked unimpressed. "This case was closed years ago," he said, barely glancing up. "Bodies get lost in the woods all the time." Jules asked, "And the fresh names carved into the cabin?" The officer leaned in. "Do yourself a favor. Let this go." Dana didn't sleep that night. Jules disappears. The next morning, Jules didn't answer his texts. His apartment door was open. No sign of struggle, just his laptop still recording. The video showed him reviewing the cabin tapes at 3:17 a.m. Then, a sudden jolt of static. And then, from the corner of the frame, a figure appeared. It wore a ranger uniform, but the face wasn't human, just a long, pale blur. Jules stood up in shock. The screen went black. A desperate return. Micah and Dana knew they had no choice. They returned to the woods. This time, not as explorers, but as people who needed answers. The forest felt different, too quiet. No birds, no wind, no time. They reached the cabin. The mirror was gone, but a hole gaped in the ground, wider now. The entire foundation had collapsed. Inside the hole, stairs led deeper than before, as if the forest was pulling itself open. They descended. What they found wasn't a basement. It was a cathedral. The hollow god. Tall trees twisted into pillars underground. In the center stood a grotesque altar. Surrounding it, bones, phones, shoes, hiking gear from dozens of missing people. And then the whisper. "Why do you keep coming back?" Dana turned. Stood there, pale, smiling, wearing Jules' face now. But it was wrong, too tall, too fluid. "You heard them," it said, mimicking Sarah's voice. "We're still here." Micah raised a flare and threw it toward the thing. It screamed, a sound not meant for human ears. The whole forest seemed to convulse. Only one came back. Dana woke up 2 miles from the trailhead, alone, covered in dirt. Micah was gone. She staggered into town, sunburned and barefoot. She had one thing in her pocket, a small fragment of mirror glass. The reflection showed 3 people standing behind her. Dana didn't talk for weeks. She moved back to the city, quit hiking, cut her hair, changed her number. But the nightmares didn't stop. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw it again. The cathedral in the dirt, the altar, the thing that wore her brother's voice. She kept the mirror shard locked in a drawer. She tried to throw it away. It always came back. The authorities chalked it up to another hiking tragedy. Micah and Jules, lost on the trail. No foul play, no evidence. Just another headline in a long list of unsolved wilderness disappearances. But Dana knew the truth. And deep down, she knew she wasn't the only one who'd seen it. 6 months later, Dana got a package. No return address. Inside, a GoPro. Dead battery. Old model. She charged it. The footage was damaged. Corrupted. But the audio survived. Micah's voice. "If this gets out, tell them not to follow the path. It's not a trail. It's a trap. The whole mountain is watching." Heavy breathing. Then a whisper. "They feed on what we leave behind." Then silence. Dana didn't want to go back. But she couldn't live with herself. So she went one last time. This time she brought a camera crew. She told her story. They laughed. Joked about Blair Witch vibes. Only one of them came back. And her footage went viral. Millions watched her scream as the ground split beneath her, as something not human crawled from the dark. The video was flagged, removed, but not before copies spread across Reddit, TikTok, and deep YouTube threads. Today, the trail is still there. Devil's Den State Park. Clean, quiet. Visitors still go missing sometimes. Usually solo hikers. Sometimes experienced. Sometimes not. Every year, someone new disappears. A shoe, a map, a shattered phone found days later. Locals whisper about it. They say if you hear your own name called in the trees, don't turn around. Don't answer, because if you do, you'll never leave. Months passed. The leaves turned, the wind grew sharp, and the tourists thinned out from Devil's Den. Dana never went back again. But one morning, as she sat on her apartment balcony, coffee in hand, sleep still clinging to her eyes, she saw something that stopped her breath. Taped to her door was a photo, old, yellowed, and folded once down the middle. She picked it up with shaking hands. It showed Micah, Jules, and Dana, taken years ago, long before the hike, smiling in front of an old trail sign that read, "You are not lost. You are becoming." Scrawled in faded ink on the back was one final message. "You got out. Keep living. That's all we ever wanted for you." Dana clutched the photo to her chest. For the first time in forever, she wept, not out of fear but relief. Not everything in the woods had been darkness. Some part of them still loved her enough to say goodbye. Like this video, subscribe to Cold Case Chronicles. And remember, some trails change you forever, but with love and courage, you can always find your way back.